doing? So good to talk to you. That was Fleetwood Mac, believe it or not. Very early Fleetwood Mac, I may add. But yeah. And let's see. Did I get myself cut off or did I continue to be live? It says I'm live. So, hey, what's up, everybody? So good to see you. Welcome. Speaking favor over us all. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Confess that every day, and it will deliver a payday. It will. So, hey, Nina, what's up? How you feeling, my dear? How's the back healing? Bosto to everybody, and big hug. Got my guy over here. How you doing, dude? Good to see you, man. Yeah. Sky Pilot. He's up there. He's up there for sure. So, what's going on? Interesting day. Had interesting conversation earlier. Let me make sure that everything is a-okay. It looks a-okay. That's all I got to say. So sometimes you're got more things on your mind. Had a great conversation with a individual I'd talked to in decades, and we were reminiscing about the days when we lived in Nashville, and Nashville was really cool. It was a good experience. Uh, you know, Music Row was where my clients were, and I was in the video production and editing business and selling special effects, and got to meet a lot of the stars back then, and led one thing to another, got myself involved with NASCAR. First client of mine was Richard Petty. I actually designed this box. Sam Bass did the artwork. This is almost 30 years old now. The collector cards and the collector card inside are they're really collectible. I mean, so yeah. Really enjoyed Nashville. Got to know Brooks and Dunn, and so amongst others. So anyway, how's it going? Just reading all the comments here. This is going to be a good conversation. We're going to. Someone asked, by the way, and this is what I buy. This is some really good stuff. It's called Citrus Detox Foot Soak. For those of you who have your foot spas, I highly recommend it. I really do. I do it every day now. And wow. Last night was a very interesting night. Deep, deep, deep sleep. But yet I had a very profound experience. And speaking of profound experience, tune into the Steiger perspective over at artistfirst.com, 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. if you're in the Mountain Time Zone. Going to have Marsha on as my special guest. We really get into a conversation that, well, I am just thankful for free speech and uncensorship. That's all I'll say. In fact, the theme tonight is why the rush? Well, hello, alien believer. How you doing? And Shannon, the wise April Fool girl, how you doing? Emperor Rex, Robert V is in the house. Saying thank you, moderators, beloved abstract, Tessa, good to see you. Hey, Lucky Stone. Wow, your computer, yeah, strange stuff. Oh, it's a strange vibe out there. It really is. I don't know. It appears that there really is an agenda. It's the strangest thing. Read two stories today that, when you read them in their context, are very disturbing, very disturbing. And for myself, who, I don't have a doctrine. I mean, if there's a doctrine, I guess as humble pie would say, I don't need no doctrine. I don't need no doctrine. But anyway, but when you come out of something as long as I mean, I was into the Christian trip, man, really deep. I mean, I went down that rabbit hole. Man, I mean, I hit a wormhole. And you're grateful that when you come out on the other side that you're still intact. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wow. All right, you had some rebuilding to do, but that happens. But holy crap. I mean, you look back and you first of all, it's like getting a new sense, you never felt your fingers before, and all of a sudden now you do, and you go, wow, that's really the tactile, interesting interaction. But anyway, and then when you have a chance to, kind of let everything, congeal, get back to peace. Peace, if you've ever read the book called Etadorfa, which is Aphrodite's backwards, the man who started it all, you'll find out that when you look for a place called perfection, perfection in its true perfect state is non-existence. It's perfect. The best way to say it's like a lake, say 200 miles underneath the earth, and it's so still, it does not make a quiver. That is, according to the man who started it all, that is what perfect peace is. It's a sense, a state of non-existence, because there's nothing. If you're in a state of consciousness where inertia, force, whether it be mental, energy, physical, you're in a state of chaos, because the vibrations will boom, 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 boom. And we all know it. We all live it. And so when I came out of that, I was a studier. I mean, I knew Hilton Selton, who was probably one of the most astute teachers on the book of Revelation. Was a good friend of mine. And so I had this so well ingrained. The future, I had visions that were given to me of future events. And yeah, oddly enough, they start coming to pass. You see the symbology of them all. But anyway, so you get in tune to look for signs. And that's dangerous. It really is. You start looking for signs, you'll find them. You always will. It's just the question is it the right sign? But any case, the time that we now live in would say, all right, so what's going on here? Is the events that are unfolding, are these just coincidence? Is it the law of averages? I mean, is it randomness? Did someone take a time trip into the future and then took a time trip back and then wrote about this in their nomenclature of what they saw? Because, I had, with April and Jay, I just adore that couple. They're good people all the way around. But one of the things that when you come to prophecy that I had not considered, I was meditating and the higher voice in me said, now, wait a minute. If time is what it is, time is not linear. Time is a dimension. The fourth dimension means that time just doesn't flow one way. And when we talked about this is very interesting. Earlier this week on Monday, I talked about the Looking Glass Project. Guess what showed up in my email, my e-zine? It was a story on the Looking Glass Project. So time is not constant. And when you look at it that way, so prophecy could also be merely the witness of a potential time traveler, again, either took an individual from that time frame forward and said, look, because that's what it actually says if you go and read it. So we don't know if the individual writing the story, were they intelligent enough to realize what they were seeing was they were time traveling. Or it could be that someone of the future wanted to make sure that those of the future at a certain time in history would be well versed to what would be happening, and took an individual, and that individual, because of his core beliefs and his perception of what reality is, came back and then wrote the story. It's a possibility. It gives an option that says, well, the future is not set, or is it? Could a time traveler of a family bloodline purposely come back and screw with certain events, giving humanity a precognition of what was going to happen? And this is what you have to grasp and understand, is that the events are going to happen. Whatever we're heading towards, I don't think can be stopped. I don't think, no matter how much positive thought and everyone come and singing Kumbaya wants to do, it's going to happen. The question is, where are you going to be? What state are you going to be? And what condition are you going to be if you're here when that event takes place? Now, what the event is, I think, is still ambiguous as to exactly what it is. But it does appear that there are bloodlines that are within us, and we're not all the same. We're going to read a document that I was looking at this, and I was looking for something to bring up on Agenda 2030, because Agenda 2020 it's already here and gone. I mean, that agenda 21, is virtually now complete. 2015, every nation on the planet signed a compact, a covenant, an agreement. Yeah. Them damn covenants, them contracts. And you know what we didn't realize, you and I mean, we're living our lives in this illusionary matrix, this holodeck that we're on. We call it a planet, but actually it's a spaceship. Our conceptions of spaceships are very limited, because that's what they want us to think. We don't think that our planet is in fact a spaceship. It actually is. But anyway, it's just a what they call a living biological ship. Imagine that. And we try to duplicate it. But anyway, let's continue with yeah, I like that, Blazing River, on the time loop. So it's a way that you can extrapolate the religious pollution of event, I think, that may have really happened. I mean, it's an alternative. It's better than saying that, well, there's only two buckets. This allows for a third bucket that we can really get out there with. So we never include time travel. I contend that if you read most religious books, whether it's the Talmud, whether it is the Quran, whether it is the Latin Vulgate, which, by the way, is the only true Bible. Everything else past the Vulgate is a trap, but I digress. But if you look at these books, it would appear that we're dealing with trans-dimensional time travelers. I mean, it would answer a lot of questions. You have these prophets that come onto the scene, and suddenly you're telling you of events that are forthcoming that they regulate down to the wrath of God. Okay. Not quite digging that, but all right, let's just take the context. Well, if that prophet was in fact, let's say, like Elijah, who was taken up in a spaceship, what if in fact what we were seeing Elijah doing was actually transcending in what we would call beam me up, a time portal? I mean, there's a lot of ways of looking at this. And then you could see why these events happen all over the world. And when they do happen, religions, doctrines spring up behind them because man is so disassociated with the concept that, hey, there's life outside this planet, off-worlders. I mean, I'm just trying to put this in context because we're dealing with bloodlines here, and it's something that I study a lot on. And it's quite interesting when you begin to see how these bloodlines begin to play into role. There is a thought that the original bloodlines, the top, they're still alive. They left this planet. And the interesting thing is about if you're on Earth, you're under an aging radiation. That's really what it is. It breaks down our cells, our bodies, after duplicating and replicating to fight this aging process. We all see the signs of what aging is. You get outside this earth and you get inside an environment that doesn't have this type of radiation into it. You could live 1,000,000 years. You would be considered to be an immortal, in essence, a god, an angel, a time traveler. Maybe that's what we're dealing with. Metatron, yes, we're going to be talking more about that. It's quite interesting because I don't know, maybe through all the different channels out there, and you think about it, channels. So we're all channeling something. And within that cacophony of vibrations, we're able to sift through and get to the bottom of this. I don't know. I don't know if calling it truth is something we really want to say. I don't know. I think truth is ambiguous now. What is truth? I don't know. I love someone who wrote about love, and it was so interesting because I thought their perspective was spot on, that the fact that we perceive love to be positive, that's an illusion. That is materialism built up to make you want to buy something to prove your love. It's kind of cold, but yeah. Love. Love is always good. So the love of money, huh? Isn't that the root of all evil? It's not money. Money is not the root of all evil. It's the love of money. One of the tests that, if you ever go in for jobs, that they'll want to test you to see what your character rating is. And many of us, have taken those tests. And you're in there for an hour and it just sucks because, there is a pattern to it. But anyway, I digress again. The point is, for instance, there's a question that says, you're walking along a road, you see a bag that's on the side of the road. You don't know why, but instinctively you stop, you kick the bag and you feel that there's something in it, and you open the bag and you find that the bag is filled with money. And then you are supposed to, and from there, they're going to give you a series of compounding questions. What do you do? Do you keep it? Do you call the local authorities? Do you leave it? What do you do? I mean, no one knows about it. You're the only one there. What do you do? You fill in the blank. I kind of look at it like this. So if I found a bag of money, I'd have to consider who would be carrying a bag of money. I mean, if you asked this question 50 years ago, I think it would have even more relevance. But today, if you did, who carries that kind of money? Well, let's look on the positive. It could have been someone's savings. There's people out there that don't trust banks, and maybe it blew out and they didn't know about it. Okay. Could be someone's savings. Then, on the other hand, it could be nefarious. Now, the problem with that, if it is nefarious type money, ill-gotten gain, filthy lucre, it's cursed. Every single dollar in that is cursed. It's blood money. Well, you don't want that. Anyway, so I love our chit chats. I mean, they're just, it's like, okay, well, think about it. Let's see what's going on. Lance says a drug deal gone bad. You see, that's my point. And that's a point, you don't want to touch that, man. I mean, that shit's got bad mojo all over it, man. Walk on, baby. Just walk on by. That's what I got to say. Someone says, if you find it, God gave to it. Well, which God, Lance? I mean, that's the question. Which God are you referring to? I mean, there's a lot of gods, And this is where everyone goes, well, excuse me. What do you mean there's only one God? Well, there isn't but just one God. No, there are many gods, Well, now, Lance, I wouldn't agree with you on that one. You just don't know. But anyway, what if it was only $20? Now, interesting you say that, Robert. At one time I found $500. And what did I do? I kept it because there was nobody around. And I had no idea where to even begin. And so I figured that was just good fortune. It's a fact, I remember I was, where was I at? The Mandalay Bay. And I was at the bar and talking. And as I got up, my foot hit a chip. And I looked down and it was $1,000 chip. And I picked it up and said to the bartender, I just found $1,000 chip. He says, congratulations. So, there you go. Drinks are on me. That's how it worked out. So I don't know. That's a good question. Let's see. Is God so anyway, that's my answer, Robert V. That's how I was going to that's how I look at it. Yeah. And if it's $20, hey, it's $20 to your, it's like this, back in the days, when you actually could get coins, as a kid, I remember we used to always go by the phones to see if there was a dime in there. Yeah, $20 or $500, Doris, you're right. Yep. And it was always really exciting when you find a dime. And then there was that one time my brother and I, and there were some other kids, we lived in Santa Clara, and actually went into the phone booth back in the days when they actually had them. And man, there was like, a quarter and a dime. Man, I think it was 2 or 3 dimes. Anyway, for us, that was a bonanza. I mean, you could buy candy bars, big candy bars, for a nickel. And so we had a good time on that one. So anyway, boy, was not going down this path, but hey, I kind of just go with the flow, and we always have it. Yeah, beloved Appster, always check the phone booths. Yeah, yeah. There was something about that era where there were no cell phones. It really was. Many a song, I think Boss Skaggs has one, buddy, can you loan me a dime? That's all it took to make the time for a phone call, right? All right. So Bloodlines, got so much to cover on this. Uh, Good stuff all the way around, and it's kind of be a circuitous route that we're going. So this is, by the way, Agenda 21. This was back in 1992, I believe. Yeah. So they've had nearly 30 years to implement this, and they have. They have. I mean, it can't be denied. I mean, you go through this a whole agenda and you read the whole thing, and we're not, but it's all right. So this is a reality, right? And then I love this. I love how this person interlaces their theology into what is now taking place 2030, that where the world signed on to this in 2015. And it's quite interesting, and I won't get into everything that this person writes, but I did find this. uh this person uses Genesis 11:6, and Yahweh God said, look, there are only one people, and they all have one language, and this is what they begin to do. And now they are not going to be withheld from doing whatever they plan to do. In one of my shows, in the Breaking of the God Spell, and then the Bloodline Invader series, this is actually an assault on humanity, taken through the lens of basically blurring what really took place. And it showed to me that they're afraid of us, whoever they are, and it's ambiguous as to who they are. But anyway, there seems to have been this interaction, this interjection into our destiny. And folks, the only way that this could have been done, this is, if you want to get into could this anyway have happened? I don't know. Science fiction would say you were looking at the second major genetic modification of humanity. They modified our genes on a global scale to such a degree that it altered our ability and how we hear. Interesting. This person went on to say, whether you are a Christian or not, whether you understand the Bible or not, whether you believe in multiculturalism or not, whether you believe that there is a strength in diversity or not, the fact remains racial integration, in this case, didn't work, never has. And they go on to say why. Well, they say that God forbids it. Because you see, here's the other thing. This is the root of all racism. Apparently, there was a time where we just got along just fine. Didn't have a problem. Didn't matter tall, small, wide, short, skinny, fat, didn't matter. Didn't matter what the pigment skin did, if you sunburned in the summer or if you didn't. It didn't matter. Everything was cool. Why? Because we got together collectively as a single thought, humanity. And we said, we're going to build a castle in the sky. And if there are gods up there, we're going to be knocking on the door. Mm-hmm. And apparently, maybe they are up there because it pissed them off. And so what did they did? They did not separate our languages. They made us become, and I'm just going to say it, racist. You can't speak my language. That means you're not in my tribe. That means I've got to fear you, man. We used to work in cooperatives, gathering together. We broke bread together, but now I can't understand you. So I don't know what you're saying. So you may be plotting against me. See how this works? And this person goes on to say, all races are not of the same blood. All the races did not come from Adam or Noah. All races do not have the same heritage or traditions or culture or even the same language, the same habits, and the same values. So how would they continue to go with this up? Well, it's very interesting because I look at this that I said, now, wait a minute. Everyone gets all bent out of shape because, they reference this book or they reference that book, it's in the Bible or this predated the Bible or, and I go, okay, so where did all this start from? Well, people don't study, but where it really came from was the Phoenicians. They're the ones who really kind of started it all. In this one, and this does come into these bloodlines because these bloodlines play an important role to what we're in today. But it's interesting to see where they came from. Here, this gentleman, in which I have a lot of respect, I did a whole series on this, on the ball, an unbiased view. In the world today, Christianity is the central notion. And this weekend is the memorial of either a murder or a play. I don't know. But in this case, this is that God sacrifices his only begotten son. I could spend hours on that. I'm not going to do it. To save the world. Almost certainly he has its sole source in the religion of the Canaanites with its beloved god, Baal. He says here we argue that Baal, the god portrayed in the Old Testament as the great rival god to Yahweh, whose worship was considered by the prophets an abomination, is in fact the model of the Christ story, and Christianity is a morphed version of the Baal legend, not a reformed version of Judaism, nor a new covenant with the Yahweh. And you see, when these bloodline families, they're all involved into religion. They got huge stakes in it. And it's quite interesting because I want to get to Bundy, the bloodline Bundy here. But what I wanted to bring out to this is that history, what we have today, is this morphed view of things that we haven't even. They destroyed the books. They took away the knowledge. And now I contend today, we don't know what we worship. We don't know what we really believe. We use God as a catch-all. How can the God that you women pray to, is this the same God you're screaming out when you're having orgasms? I mean, I just want to know, is this the same God? Because I mean, it gets confusing if you really want to get down into it, right? I mean, why is it that we're in the midst of coitus and we suddenly start screaming out, oh God, oh God, oh God? That's a strange way to tell me you love me. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, I know, controversial, but it's so cool. All right, so um let me get to something here. This is quite interesting. I love what this person went on to write, that, you know, we got it all wrong. I mean, no one has really got the full story, as much as we'd like to think we do. Okay, so let's move right on along. I want to get into the Bundy bloodline. Y'all remember Ted Bundy? Yeah, this is a strange one. I think this actually comes from the watcherfiles.com. But I thought when this person brought up the Bundy bloodline, I mean, we're going to talk about the Astors, we're going to talk about all these, because it's amazing how they manipulate the whole concept of what is God, what is evil. Does evil necessarily have to have a God to head it up? Because the way that it's set right here, we have this God, whatever that God is. This is the good God. This God sits up here. But this is the evil God. And we put our hands down on that God. But it's still God. Well, no. You have to understand, it's under the good God. Well, who says that guy is good? He did. Well, who is he? Well, he's God. Why? And then you get it all mixed up, because now you got this doctrine of this particular sect. You have this particular sect, and how are they all doing with the same God? I don't know. But it's interesting, because that's what we are manipulated by. Still are today. So this one here, she looks into this and about Ted Bundy, and I thought this one was really interesting. She writes, Christians will avoid the many secret spiritual undertows that drown so many. In the 1980s, one of the most famous criminals was a serial killer named Ted Theodore R. Bundy. It is not publicly known why he killed so many innocent victims. Ted Bundy told his girlfriend, Elizabeth Kendall, that the force, quote unquote, caused him to kill. Bundy's confession to her was given after his final arrest in Florida. Elizabeth wrote down his confession, and he gave it to her over the phone. Ted said, I don't have a split personality. I don't have blackouts. I remember everything I've done. Like at Lake Shemish, we went out to Farrell's for ice cream after eating hamburgers. It wasn't like I hadn't forgotten or couldn't remember, but it was just over, gone. The force wasn't pushing me anymore. I don't understand it. The force would just consume me. Kendall Elizabeth wrote in her book, The Phantom Prince, My Life with Ted Bundy, Seattle Madrona Publishers, wrote, the force is the very term that high-level Satanists use to describe the power that they believe in. It's also the same phrase that high-level Christians, priest, I mean, it's the same thing. It's the force. May the force be with you, Luke. And you see how that changed everything in our culture, our society, and our thinking now? It elevated the force from these simple personifications called God, Lucifer, the devil, to something that is much more universal, which says dualism is everywhere. But anyway, again, she said in the Star Wars, surprisingly used the Illuminati term, the Force. So this is all about the Illuminati, which up until that time had been reserved for the esoteric use by Satanism and the occult. See, I have a real problem with people, but who propagate this belief system. Christianity could not exist if there wasn't Satanism. I mean, no religion can exist if it doesn't have the dualism involved. Just, well, it can't live. And then it goes on to say this is part of the plan to take the occult and its goals and instill it into the public's thinking and goals. Now, there are many people who believe that today We are all under this spell. And isn't it odd how we talk about being in the prison, and yet these scripts, and that's all they are, they're scripts to make it become true, scriptures, is all designed to get the worm in there once the virus gets in, right? And she goes on to say, well, who was Ted and why did he go and do what he did? There are a great number of unknowns about Ted Bundy, and although it appears to be public that the newspapers covered his crimes thoroughly, often appearances can be deceiving. If Ted Bundy was related to the Bundy family of the hierarchy, we could expect several things almost without a doubt: that his satanic activities and any occult connotations to the murder would be kept very secret by the police, the newspapers, and his family. You see, and here we go again. This is the villainization of occultism. That's why you have to be really careful when you look at this. They have good information in this, but you have to really begin to sift it out and go, now, wait a minute, wait a minute. So now you're saying that the occult is bad. I don't know. I could say that the Bible is occult. It takes hidden knowledge to understand it. Isn't that what occult is? Hidden knowledge? Okay. But it is interesting about Bundy and being part of the bloodline of the Illuminati. I had never heard this before, and that's why I'm bringing it up here, because this is interesting. You never heard that kind of the spiritual side of, well, who and what was Bundy all about. She said the information of the case in Ted Bundy would be closely contained. Interesting, when she said, I recently went to research Ted Bundy, every copy, all four of them, of the book Ted Bundy Conversations, by Stephen G., I think that's Majod, had been stolen from the Portland Central Library. One of the other books on him was also missing. There you go. I hate it when those sons, like, they won't bring them back. Return your book, man. And today it's really odd when you think about libraries that, you know, and I'm going to just simply digress here. Libraries are really cool. They have, as y'all know, if you go into them, and I miss it. When I would visit New York quite often on business, I would go to the New York Central Library right down in Manhattan. And it's really cool because you can get in some of those places and it's the smell of books. Old books have a certain smell to it. And anyway, she went on about where she couldn't find what she was needing. Apparently, she went to the university library and couldn't find anything. Well, maybe they had a problem up there with it. Then she went on and said eventually she did find a book on apparently the connection between Bundy and his belief in Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible. Now, again, most people have never read the Satanic Bible. We did here, and it's not what it says it is. I mean, it's quite amazing that, when you tell people, well, have you ever read the Satanic Bible? No. Well, how do you know what's in it? Well, it's because it's called the Satanic Bible. That's a sales pitch. Anyway, so she went on, and I'm just going to scroll through here very quickly, that apparently he had not only an interest in Satanism, but he also had an interest in astrology. That would make sense. I mean, a lot of people do. But his was in a different way. I mean, they say that the guy was very normal, but I contend there was different occupants on there. So anyway, I want to scroll all the way. So who are these Bundys? Well, it goes back. Eric Bundy, placed in charge of the prisoner of Howard Hughes by the Illuminati family of Jackie Onassis. I mean, the Onassis family. Now, this is really interesting. Eric Bundy was placed in charge of Howard Hughes. The Illuminati, as we'll learn in these books going forward, Howard Hughes was not part of them. It is rumored that why he became a recluse is that because the Illuminati, the ones in power, he saw them, they weren't human. And it became more and more reclusive for him. Or say that they're the ones that Eugene H. Bundy was a judge. Apparently with Roe versus, and I can't read that, I'm sorry. They have banking, industry, Republican state committees. I didn't know this. Knights of the Pythias, Order of the Red Moon, Orders of the Elk, Frederick McGeorge Bundy of the Skull and Bones. Harriet Lowell Bundy married Skull and Bones member Gaspar de Anelot Boleyn. And you're starting to see names now, and it's really interesting that she went back further. Harvester Hollister Bundy, again, of the secret society, the Skulls and Bones. All knows the George W. Bush, John Kerry, a number of other still prominent politicians. This is where they came from. Going all the way back. So you can see going back how they begin to intermarry. Catherine Lawrence Bundy, daughter of Harvey Hollister. And you go, I never even heard of the Bundys other than Married with Children. But I digress. And so this is interesting because these people have a direct connection to these people, the Astors. And the Astors, everyone knows about John Jacob Astor, these cats they're into some weird stuff. I mean, you begin to see that they're all connected. I mean, this is a well-connected group that go back a long, long time. So, was born in the Waldorf, Duchy of Baden, Germany. He's from Jewish bloodlines, which is really interesting. The Jewish origins have been hidden, and quite a number of various ideas of the Astor's heritage have been put into circulation by the Astors. John Jacob Astor was a butcher in Waldorf in 1784, and he came to America after the stop over in London. Although the story is that he came to America in 1784, he came to America after, he came in here penniless. And that may be true. He soon joined the Masonic Lodge and within 2 to 3 years had become a master of the Holland Lodge number 8 in New York City. This Holland Lodge is a prominent lodge in that many of its members have good connections to the Illuminati elite. An example of just one lodge number 8 member was Archibald Russell, whose father was president of the real hotbed of Illuminati action for many years, the Royal Society of Edinburgh. So by 1788, Astor was a master of Masonic Lodge number 8. This is rather interesting considering Astor could not speak English when he arrived in America and supposedly was very poor. John Jacob Astor was always very famous for being cold-hearted, antisocial, and a man who didn't have a charm, wit, or grace. This quote comes from even a relative of the DuPont family who wrote a sympathetic biography entitled The Astor Family. And when we get into the DuPonts, ay, ay, ay. And you wonder, and you sit back on this and you're saying, but it's so interesting because our past, most of us are completely unaware of this. I mean, what? But yet these cats actually directed what we live in today. And it appears, depending on your point of view, that the Illuminati, this force, is a force that seems to be against humanity. But I contend that when you look at Freemasonry and its background, in which we all know, many of you are well versed in it, that you're going, now, wait a minute. So if I'm a freeman, a free man, I can only be a free man if I'm within these groups. Because if you're in these groups, and I don't know, I can only suspect what it requires for you individually to give up in order to have all of this. So is magic at play here? Is Satanism at play? Is this a huge, big conspiracy? I've got about 6 other PDFs that we're going to be covering, because the families, when you start reading them, they're all in on this. It seems like there is, and I don't know this, but there seems to be a freaking playbook. Some say, well, they're using the Bible. I don't know. But when you read all this, they're all connected. And there seems to be something happening to these families. You start doing a modern day, that's what I'm going to be working on over the weekend, a modern day update on these. Something's going on here. There seems to be a changing of the guard. There seems to have been maybe a time limit on these agreements. In order for a covenant to work, a covenant requires one party to have something that the other party has need of, and that the other party is willing to agree to in exchange to receive what it doesn't have. I contend something is happening. And it very well may be that we've been sold a bill of goods of thinking that these families, these bloodlines, are as intact and as powerful they are. They may be running scared now. The newer generations of these bloodline families are apparently not living up to the conditions of the contract. And as a result, many dynasties are falling all around the world. And you have those who are standing in the backdrops saying, look, look. So if they're running scared, if the matriarchs, the patriarchals of these family bloodlines have now realized that their progenies, their heirs, have now violated an agreement, I'm just putting this out there because something's happening. We're seeing it all over the world. Something is happening. And when you look again, you look at these families, every one of them seem to be falling. I don't know. Could you say that the last 1,000 years has been the result of these power brokers, these ones that seem to always show up throughout history, controlling commerce, politics, religion? I don't know. It seems like it is to me. And you and I are living it. Listen tonight. It's interesting. I went back, and if you'll go back in the last 4 months of the Steiger perspective, I told my audience there, which is you, hopefully you listen, but if you don't, that's cool. That I told you a number of things that were going to happen. They've happened. And I'm not going to hold back in what I see the second chapter to be. Um, and I want to be positive. I don't want to be perceived as doom and gloom, but folks, you can't deny that something is afoot. I mean, I feel like Sherlock Holmes. Many of y'all do as well. We know this instinctively. This person I was talking to was quite um, amused by the fact of how the perspective that I put out on the Steiger perspective, but yet they said, it's so true. You're doing exactly what said we always saw you to be doing. So whatever is happening, it's happening to us. It's accelerating. And the question is why? What's the hurry? What is going on? Just tune in tonight. Something's happening. Again, I find these bloodlines, the families, to be so interesting because they're interwoven. I've known the DuPonts, knew their heirs. They're quite interesting. Again, these families. I don't know. So someone says anybody can be brought down by others or their own hands. Yeah, that's typically the way it works. Yeah. I don't know. And then I'll just close out on this. And I thought Ben Davidson today had a great segment for suspicious observers. So now Uranus is showing signs of magnetic changes. And as I was just meditating on this morning, folks, if we look at this, Pluto 2 years ago, we've seen the same thing, Neptune, Uranus. We're seeing disturbances on Jupiter. When we start seeing them on Saturn, we know we're not that far away. And I don't know, I guess the thing I'm questioning myself, is this all coincidental? Are we seeing this plan that's unfolding as a result of what we're seeing happening in our own solar system? Seems too coincidental to me. It's like something just, yeah, that. Why are they spending money like there's no tomorrow? Because there may not be a tomorrow. Anyway, all right, folks. I enjoyed this. I just enjoy all of you. You just I don't have all the answers. We're gonna have other people on here. Got some people. Guy, I owe y'all a phone call, and I know that I keep it on my list, but boom. Yeah, why did Jeff Bezos build a giant clock in Texas? It's because they know. They know. Hey, Lost in Space, what's happening? They absolutely know. And, listen, I expect Ben to report here next week that they're finding out that the Earth is spinning up faster. Something is afoot, folks. I mean, this is truly a worthy mystery for all of us to solve here, and I think all of us have a piece of it. I really do. Whether it's Rex Bear, whether it's, Ben Davidson, whether it's the numerous of other channels that are out there, all of them have a piece of this puzzle. It's if we can just get over sometimes the the challenges of just coming together and saying, well, here's my piece, and here's my piece. Can we get the pieces to match up? And if we're fortunate and they do, then we can add that to the other piece. Hey, Gaia, what's up? I got you. I was patching, and it's like, I'm going to get there. But that's cool. Let's see. Ashley says, I've started to question if the Bible wasn't created with the knowledge of manifestation. Ah, yes. Did some groups create the Bible knowing that those who believe would eventually manifest? Ashley May, you are on to the right path. The answer is yes. We have been primed with this. It was the number one fear factor. Listen, I'll be candid with you. The only reason why a person goes to religion is that you're afraid about what happens after you die. And so your religion provides you with the golden ticket. Oh, I got this religion, so I know what's going to happen. Which, in reality, you don't know. None of us know until the no happens. We can speculate, we can pontificate, we can even communicate. But, and again, heaven, hell is a slave mentality. Tell them to go coitus themselves with those outdated, archaic. If that's what the universe is made of, I don't want any part of the universe. I'm not a freaking slave. I'm slave enough as it is here. I will not be a slave over there. I do not consent. Hey, Jay, how's up? How you doing, sir? Good to see you. Well, thank you. Shirley says there's an old man sitting on a throne there telling me. And it is true. Don't question me. Don't you know? I love what did Lilith say in the Liber Lilith, where she said, when Yaldabaoth, Yahweh, said, I'm a jealous God. And all the host of that realm said, well, if you're God, why are you jealous of anything? What? Is there someone else out there that's better than, bigger than you? I don't know. Hey, Big Al, what's up? I know that I don't know, which means I know nothing. Odd that you said that, Al, because that is exactly what I said earlier today. Hey, Kaz, got to get you back on, hon. And how are you, by the way? So I think this is heaven and hell. Rare breed, I've had both sides of that equation. I would say that there is a lot of truth to that. I am Monica says, I see slivers of knowledge in the scripture. Yeah, there is. Yeah, there really is. Little Red Hayes says, well, thank you. Appreciate that. That's what we come here to do each day. To come here and discuss and talk it out. I mean, I miss the opportunity of like when Al's coming in, stop in and miss the coffee shops. I miss going out to the restaurants. Isn't that amazing how you look back and go, well, I lived in a time when we could actually go to a restaurant, without a face covering. Yeah. I miss that. I miss going into a theater and watching a play. Yeah. Purgatory. Jeannie, there's some there's much truth to that, no doubt about it. Great, Kaz. I want to get you on again, and I think maybe with a second look with Trina would be great. So let's get that worked out. All right, everybody. David Castle, love you, brother. All of y'all, love you much. Thank you, Susie Q. Nikki D, AK Prophecy Girl. Oh, I like that handle. Yeah. It's kind of like, I love cooking, and spices are what makes cooking fun. That's the alchemy. And I think about that a lot of times when I'm mixing these spices, the garlic and all the rest of it. I'm going, this is the Bible, this is the Quran, this is the Vedic, this is mine, and you put it all together and go, tastes pretty good. Nina says, get 20% off 60-minute readings. Get there. So we'll be on tomorrow with the panel, and hadn't seen him for a couple of weeks, so it should be fun. And in the meantime, join me tonight and be honored. And thank you all. You make so much joy of this journey. And sometimes it's a little bumpy, and sometimes, we all have our moments and all of our days. But at the end of it, there are no grudges held. There is no one who is that right or that wrong. Yeah. We're all just trying to get along. So we should do a sing along. I'm a poet and didn't know it and got to grow it. So there we go. All right, folks. Much love to you. We will see you later tonight or tomorrow. All right.